There we go.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now live, and I am excited today because I have an absolutely amazing filmmaker joining us. But first, let me introduce myself. I am Floyd Marshall Jr., and I am your humble host for a conversation with. And if you are about to join us, or you'll be joining us in the very near future, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come and sit and chat with us. So today I'm joined by Philadelphia's own Kyra Knox, award winning filmmaker, documentarian, and producer. She is also a 2023 Sundance Producer Lab Fellow, off the chain. She is so talented, and when you hear her story, you're going to be like, wow. In that short amount of time, she's been able to accomplish so much. But that just speaks to her dedication and tenacity about, looking at the goal and actually meeting the goal. So, Kyra, welcome to a conversation with. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so honored to finally have a conversation with the Floyd Marshall Jr.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it's so interesting. I love traveling and going to film festivals. And, that's how we actually met. Because let me be real about this. So we're at the Micho Film Festival in Los Angeles last month. Last
Hmm.
month.
Yeah,
And
last
I'm standing in the lobby and I overheard you talking. And when I heard you say Philadelphia, my ears perked up. And I said, oh, somebody from Philly in the house? So, of course, I had to sidle a little closer and be real newsy. Then I find out, you have a documentary in the award, in the film festival that's up for an award show, up for an award. And I'm saying to myself, oh, snap. So I definitely have to go over and introduce myself. And then it turns out that we have some mutual Instagram friends and things like that,
Mhm.
because I immediately sent a text message to my team, Philly Film Factory, Eli and Lou Bivens, and I said,
Yeah.
"Yo, I'm standing in the lobby at the Micho Film Festival Award show, and it's a young lady here by the name of Kyra Knox." They were like, "Oh yeah," I said, "Okay." I said, "Yeah, I'm standing right next to her." So that's so crazy because I tell people this all the time, and then I'm gonna get to you because this show's about you, not about me. I tell people all the time, be careful what you say and where you say it,
Hmm.
because you never know who's listening and you never know who knows who. So, having said all of that, I introduced myself. And I'm so glad that I'm going to get to talk to you about your amazing documentary. But before we get to all of that, tell us a little bit about. I'm so excited. I'm tripping over myself. Tell us a
Stop.
little bit about yourself and how you got into the business.
Oh wow. How I got into the business. How do I make this short?
We
Well,
ain't
one,
we got time, girl. You ain't got to make it short.
when I was 6, I actually started out at Freedom Theater. I'm a theater kid.
Okay.
Theater is my first love. And so I was at Freedom Theater when the legendary Tom Page was there,
Mm.
and my grandfather and my nana, I used to get in trouble all the time because I always talked in class. So they said, let's put her in this theater program at at Freedom Theater. Um, and then from Freedom Theater, I actually am an alumni of Creative and Performing Arts High School. I was a drama major there. And right from there, I didn't go straight to college. I actually had the opportunity to perform off Broadway in New York when I was 19 years old, Corner Wars, which ended up winning the 2003 Oppenheimer Award for Best Play.
Mm.
And if you see the book, like my name is listed in there. And then around that time, the day before the show, my grandfather, I had a conversation with my grandfather, and back in the day when you got your headshots printed up, you had to go to a professional. It was like $250, $300 to get your headshots printed up. And so my last conversation with my grandfather was, Pop, can you put money in my account so I can get my headshots printed out? Because I was living in New York at this time, working at Starbucks, getting ready for my first debut in New York. And that same night, my grandfather passed away.
Oh, wow.
And my grandfather was a father to me when my father couldn't be a father to me. And so, being 18, 19, I didn't know how to deal with his death. In my mind, I thought that I was the cause of his heart attack, when in reality, I wasn't, And so after we did the show, I quit. I quit the arts. I completely quit. I went to CCP. And yeah, I worked in corporate, ended up meeting my now husband. And when I got engaged, around the time I was 30, 31, when I got engaged, I think I was 30, I felt like something was missing, and I realized that what was missing was my love for the arts. And so I slowly started dabbing into it, And so I wrote my own one-woman show. I ended up performing that in New York, enter into festivals. It got into the United Solo International One Man, One Woman Festival, and I got to perform it in Theater Row on Broadway. And around that same time, someone that I knew approached me and said, "Hey, can you produce my short film?" And I was just like, well, what does a producer do? So I took a $70 class at Philly Cam, how to be a producer, right?
Okay.
And, I ended up loving it. And I started, asking people, can I just shadow you on set? Can I do this? Can I do that? And mind you, I was still working a full-time corporate job. And then, one day my husband came home. I was crying. I was 34. I was crying. He said, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't want to do this no more. Can I quit my job? I want to follow my dreams of being a producer." And he said, "Give me 90 days. And you know what I did? Before I lost the guts, that very next day, I walked into my corporate job and said, "I'm giving you my 90 days notice." And I was 34, so I had a lot of naysayers, you should be starting a family. Why are you starting a new career? How are you going to be a producer? How are you going to get into the industry? But I had my blinders on, and I knew that once I set out to do something, I'm going to do it. And so around that time that I put in my 90 days, I actually got hit up by a boutique production company. My classmate and friend Melanie, she was a creative director, and they were looking for an actor, right? And so I went down there on my lunch break, did my audition. They hired me on the spot. Now I have all these shoot days, right? When I'm supposed to be resting, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to the crew and say, "Hey, do y'all need help?" And because these were overnight shoots, it was like a horror film. And by the time we wrapped, that CEO, he asked me, "Hey, like, what are you into at the wrap party?" And I said, "Well, I just quit my job because I want to be a producer." And he said, "Well, do you want to work here one day a week as a runner?" Oh, say no more, And so I started there one day a week. And they had these docu episodes. And I said, "Kyra, can you try to cast these episodes?" Had no idea how to cast for anything. But I said, "Yep, no problem." And so I just used social media, and I just started finding these interesting stories. And the company that we were doing this for was for Watching to Know by Yahoo. And so the client ended up loving the stories that I was finding. Around that same time, the production company, unfortunately, they're closed now due to COVID. They didn't make it through, but they started getting these higher profile jobs. So they're like, "Oh, Kyra, can you produce these?" "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So, but what was great was that around that same time, they hired a new production manager who was a Black woman named Cheryl. And she took me under her wing and she showed me every single thing that she knew. And so I'm learning how to produce on the fly while she's trying to mentor me as she's producing these bigger projects. Okay, so now I'm getting these episodes down, right? And this is less than a year of me. So I think this might have been like this first 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Now they're saying, oh, Kyra, you know what? You're so good at like talking to the people. And why don't you come on set? Why don't you be a film producer? What does a film producer do? I figured it out, right? Next thing you know, Kyra, can you direct these episodes? Huh? I never set out to be a director. But I was like, okay. And next thing you know, I'm directing these episodes. And what I would do is, after I was done my episode, I would go to the editor and I would say, tell me how I screwed up and how can I make my episodes better? Fast forward, within that first year and a half, I ended up winning 2 Silver Tellys for my work as a producer director for Watching to Know, and had did a little over 30 episodes for Watching to Know. So that was my film school, because I never went to film school. So that was my film school. I know I just went on a whole tangent.
No. That's a very interesting backstory, because that took a lot of courage. Most people would not have been able to do what you did. And the question that I have for you, because I want to go back a little bit.
I know I said a lot.
No. That's fine, because I wrote some things down that I really wanted to ask you, and you kind of touched on everything. But the one thing that I'm very curious about, the decision to walk away from corporate America and bet on yourself, that took an immense amount of courage.
Yeah.
You come home and you say to your husband, I'm not doing this anymore, and you're crying. What was that decisive moment? You're sitting there. What happened, if you can remember, what happened that day?
Oh, I remember.
That made you say, you know what? I'm done with this.
I'll never forget. I wasn't feeling well at all. I was not feeling well, and I very rarely called out at this job. And I went to my manager and I said, can I leave early? I'm not feeling well. And she told me no. And that was it for me. I was like, I don't need to take this, because see, the thing is that also at that job, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was only making $12 an hour. And people always ask me, well, why did you stay? If you were only making $12 an hour. And my reasoning was, I knew that I could get a job making way more money, because I was an office manager, make way more money. But I knew that if I started making way more money, I would get used to that money and I would quit, really going forward to my dream. So at that point, it's like, what do you got to lose? You can always find another office job, but would always tell people, life is not a rehearsal, it's showtime. So you just got to go out and you just got to do it, because you don't want to wake up, you're 60, 70, 80 years old and you're still in that cubicle, or you're at home and you're still saying to yourself, man, one day I'm going to do this, Me and my husband, we still don't have children yet. And I didn't have a child I didn't have children or anything. So we're just like, let's just do it. What we got to lose? It was hard. It was very hard, but yeah, that was the moment. She wouldn't let me go home. I'll never forget that.
Wow. But what's interesting? There's a gentleman that I listen to by the name of Ed Milet. And he says, things don't happen to you, they happen for you.
Yes.
The fact that she told you no was the thing that happened for you and not to you. And when I say that to people, I say, even in the midst of something that looks really bad at the moment, it often opens up opportunities that you never even thought about.
Yes.
Even, and sometimes that's God giving you that kick.
And God tested me.
Oh, of course.
Oh, he tested me, because my last day at that job was September 8th, 5 years ago. It's the 5-year anniversary of me quitting my job. He tested me. It was December. And remember, I'm only working 1 day a week at this production company. And the production company, they're net 45. So by the time it's December, they now bumped me up to full time, but I wasn't going to get my first full time check until December. I mean, excuse me, until January, late January.
Oh, wow.
And that corporate job, they called me and they said, "Hey, Kyra, like, we want to know if you want to come back, just for a few weeks, paperwork has gotten filled up, and I needed that money. Like, I know I was only being told out, but we needed that money because we didn't have that income coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to Jay's my husband. I remember talking to him and I said, "No, I can't do it." He said, "Nope." He said, we're gonna fight it out. You're not going back. You're not going back." And that was my test. That was my test. And I'm so grateful that I said no, because there's a part of me that wonders if I would have stayed once they got me back into that office.
And you probably, I'm just going to speculate a little bit here. You probably would have, because not having a check ain't no joke.
No. And I'm
And
34 at that
right.
time.
So here's this money and it's coming in. It's not a lot, but it's something, as opposed to nothing. But like the other guy that I listen to all the time, Avery Thomas, when you want it more, do you want to breathe?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you know. So you're like, you know what? I'm gonna suck this up, and I'm going to do I'm going to do this thing. But you began producing without any idea of what you were doing and how to actually do it. So
I
what
was
did your
doing
process look like? So how did your process look like as you basically learned on the job?
Oh God, it was chaotic mess. But I was able to get a little wiggle room because
Mhm.
it was documentary. So with documentaries, you have to be able to pivot really fast. You're a lot of times you're not even afforded a scout day.
Mm.
So that really helped me out a lot because I didn't have to really think about shot list or any of that type of stuff. So the documentaries really started, I guess you could say, molding me into a producer. So then by the time I became a commercial producer as well, I already knew how to pivot really quick, think on my feet, all that. But in the beginning, it was rough. It was rough.
Wow. So did anyone on set know that you didn't have any experience at this?
Yes. Not
Okay.
to my crew. So what was great about this company is that a lot of times the crew was the same,
Okay.
right? So, for example, my DP, Hector, he knew, and he's actually one of the DPs in Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia. He knew that, can I cuss?
Oh, yeah. This
Okay.
is a.
He knew I didn't know shit, you know? So, so for example, when it came to directing, he started teaching me stuff like how to get a great interview setup, how to, your establishing shots and everything like that. But then there were other things because I didn't have that training and I didn't go to film school. I started directing on what I wanted to see, and that's how I ended up coming up with this very raw style that, people tend to say that I have. But it was literally a lot of just figuring out. But the benefit of me doing so many of those episodes, and then also me talking to the editors after each episode, every episode I kept getting better and better and better and better, you know, because one of the things that you collaborate with your editor. People feel as though, oh, once I give my editor the footage, that's it. No, you should always collaborate with your editors because I strongly believe that editors are directors too. There are things that go on in their brain that we might not even think about, you
Mhm.
know? So they were the ones that say, Kyra, next time you should get this because this will be beneficial to the story. You know, you need to make sure that you have quiet moments, even though, we're just getting B-roll, be quiet because you don't know if we might want to just use the silence and have music under. So it was really like a family environment and they really helped nurture me. And what's even more amazing is that the majority of the people that I worked with in the beginning, when I didn't know a damn thing,
Mhm.
were in my crew for Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia.
Wow. And you know what? That speaks to the power. First of all, the fact that they believed in you because
Mhm.
they obviously saw something that said to, hey, you know what? Let's take a chance on her. And I think again, it goes back to you said earlier having the blinders on and just being
Mhm.
tenacious with it. And people know when you're faking the funk.
Yes.
And if you really don't want to do this, this is a business that will separate the real people from the pretenders in a minute. You
Mhm.
will definitely learn when you're on a film set and things have to get done. But I
Yes.
was listening to a couple of interviews that you had done because I did my research. And
I just noticed.
oh, yeah, I need to know who I'm talking to and about. But you talked about the fact that you learned a lot from YouTube, reading books,
Yes.
Philly Cam. So if you were talking to someone just coming in this business and they say, hey, you know what, Kyra, I want to produce, what would be your suggestion to them? What would be your advice?
One, reach out to other producers. Reach out to production companies. Say, hey, can I shadow you? You don't have to pay me anything. I just want to shadow. I'll be a PA for free. you know that's one thing, because one of the things about being a producer is that if you are a great PA, we'll hire you
Hmm.
back and back and back, and then we'll start nurturing you. Another thing that I did was I went to film festivals. I mean, I'll never forget when I found out that Bad Things got accepted into ABFF. That was an amazing moment for me, because when I first quit my job and started working one day a week at that production company, you know, ABFF was like one of the very first film festivals that I went to.
Hmm.
And I'll never forget my caption, like, I learned so much. I met so many people. I can't wait to one day be into ABFF. And fast forward, I was. So going to film festivals, going to these panels, what else? I watch YouTube, Vimeo. You can always search Vimeo for courses. I even was part of the Sundance. Sometimes they have free classes, and then they also have other classes, that you just pay a fee for. So people think that Sundance is just fellowships and labs or getting to. No, they actually have smaller classes that you can be in. Keynote speakers. I mean, and another thing is that I don't just watch the panels that are geared towards producers or directors. I actually watch classes and go to panels that are geared towards cinematography, that are geared towards lighting, because the thing is that you want to be able to talk the jargon with your gaffer and your grip or your cinematographer. You want to be knowledgeable about those things, what works, what don't work. So I make sure that I immerse myself into everything that
Hmm.
has to do with production. I even sometimes watch editing classes. How do you craft a story? How do you do this? Just always soaking that knowledge. And people think that now, because I have these accolades, that I don't do that anymore. I still watch classes and go to panels to this day. Last year I paid for the Doc NYC panels in New York to soak up more knowledge. And the thing is that when you're going to these panels or watching these classes on your monitor, whatever like that, you're also networking, because now people are noticing who you are. And they're
Hmm.
like, oh, I remember you from this film festival. I remember you from that panel. And that's how you also start building up your network, and also started getting hired or getting the opportunity to shadow on these sets.
So, with the knowledge base that you're building, do you do as far as panels, reading books, anything like that? Do you read things that have nothing to do with the film business, but business in and of itself?
Huh. That's a good one. No, I actually don't. But was it, and I think that I didn't, just because I just wanted to stay far away from anything that had to do with corporate business or, anything of that. And I just wanted to be creative. But what I'm very excited about this Sundance fellowship that I've gotten into, they're also going to teach me the business of the industry. And they're also putting us into entertainment law classes, so I feel like now I'm at that point of my career that I'm ready to soak in that type of knowledge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, because one of the things that I do when I'm teaching filmmakers, because they get caught in that creative vortex,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, well, I'm a creator, I don't need to know nothing about that. But I always say to them, well, hold on for a second. What did you just create? They're like, what are you talking about? I said, you created a product. I said,
Mm-hmm.
what do you plan on doing with that? Taking it to the market, correct? And what are you going to do when it goes to market? You're selling it to consumers, correct?
Yep.
Yes. So with all of that, how do you plan on marketing it?
Mm-hmm.
What is your business plan? Who's your demographic? Who are you selling it to? What is your audience? And that's something that I like to share with creatives, because I listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of filmmakers. And one of the things that a lot of them say is, I wish that I had taken business classes earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And that's phenomenal that Sundance is doing that,
Oh
because
man, they're teaching us how to package a film, how they're teaching us all of that. And I didn't realize that I needed this type of info
Mhm.
until I started going through the process of Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia. And I'm very grateful for my executive producer, Mark, because he really held my hand, and he didn't have to.
Mhm.
He really held my hand, and he really made me understand how this goes. And he had me in every single meeting. He didn't what you call gatekeep. He didn't
Yes.
gatekeep anything from me. So now, because of my experience with that, now I'm going into this Sundance program with some knowledge, but now they're about to dump it all on me. And I'm going to be in this program for a whole year. So imagine what I'm
Wow.
going to learn in a whole year time.
Wow.
It's for a whole year.
Oh my gosh. So when so you're a Silver Telly Award winner. Your documentary is winning all types of awards. You get into the Sundance Producer Lab Fellowship, and they're going to be so you're phenomenally talented already. But what you just explained is kind of scary, because the person that is going to emerge on the other side of that is going to be someone that's unrecognizable,
Mhm.
because now you're basically going to be a true 360-degree entity, as far as, I got the creative side down pat, learned that shit the hard way, and
Mhm.
I've just been taught business and entertainment law by the best people in the business.
Mhm.
So, I absolutely cannot wait to see what will emerge from that. But let's talk about your producer's reel, because I watched that the other day. It's phenomenal, and it's it's very different, because you have a lot of different things in your producer's reel. So
And it's my director's reel.
I'm sorry,
Everything.
so it's your director's reel. I apologize.
Director, producer.
Um, so who was your inspiration, as far as, okay, I like the way they direct, I like the way they produce? Do you have anyone particular in mind, or is it
No,
just like, I'm just gonna rock out?
I just rocked out. I just went by my instinct, what I thought looked good. Um, and so I never really I don't I watch other directors' stuff and everything like that, but I never wanted to adapt their style, or because I'm Kyra Knox,
Mhm.
and I want to be recognized for my own personal style. So even though I might get tips, how to properly frame something, if you notice in my stuff, it's always a little dirty too.
Mhm.
The frame is always a little off, or um instead of, I hate doing things on sticks, on a tripod. I like having movement. You know, a technique that I did learn was that, you know, you put a tennis ball on your tripod, place the camera on top, and you get like that little bit of
Mm.
movement, you know? So no, I just don't, I really don't study other people's styles.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. Well, you have a phenomenal style all your own. But I always like to ask that question, to see if
Mhm.
anyone inspired you. But that's phenomenal. So you'll
Now,
be,
Ava DuVernay inspired me to quit my job to follow my
oh,
dreams
okay.
because she was around the same age when she quit her job to follow her
Okay.
dreams. And if she could do it, I can do it, you know? So she was a major inspiration for me quitting my job.
That's awesome. That is amazing. So let's talk about this little documentary that you did. That little thing that's winning all these awards everywhere. Every time I see you on the stage holding something. So Bad Things in Philadelphia. It's your award-winning documentary. Where did the idea come from?
So the idea, so what some people don't, well, probably a lot of people don't know, um, Gary Mills, who is the founder of Shoot Basketball's Not People, is actually my cousin, my first
Mm,
cousin. Our and you were at the award ceremony in LA.
yes.
Yes. So Gary, who went up on the stage with me, yeah, that's my cousin. Our mothers are
Oh wow.
sisters.
Oh wow.
And we actually did an episode for, we're going back to my docu episodes I used to do for Watching to Know. We did an episode called Good People. And I casted my cousin because he utilizes his skills and his love of basketball. Like he was on All Public, like he went to Virginia State, like so he uses his love for basketball to keep the kids off the street.
Mhm.
And so I got inspired, you know, really listening to his stories. Cause you know, when it's your family member, you know stuff, but you don't really know until you actually hearing it from a different perspective. And so I also saw the kids and I just got so inspired. And the episode was only like 5 minutes. I'm like, man, this should be so much longer. But then, you know, I got caught up in work and everything like that with other docu episodes. And I kept on saying, one day I'm gonna do a short film about this. And then what happens? COVID hits, right?
Mm.
And I'm like, dang, like, why did I let my imposter syndrome stop me from doing this short film? So I said, well, when the world opens back up, I am going to do this short film. And so things are starting to open up. And I say to my cousin, I'm like, hey, can I tell your story? And he said, yeah, why not? You know, let's do this. Let's rock out. And so I called my friends that are in the industry that I've worked with. I said, hey, I have this idea for a doc. My cousin, he's trying to keep these kids off the street, away from the gun violence. You know, do you guys want to rock out with me? I don't have money. I have nothing. And they said, yeah, let's do it. Like we believe in this. Because another thing is that what people don't realize, because I'm also a commercial producer, right?
Mhm.
And so you're doing all of these projects, you know, commercial shoots that are like soul sucking, you know? It's like you're dealing with multi-million, billion-dollar companies, but where's the heart in it, you know? And so we're always looking for something outside of that. And so on the weekends, like they would be there right on set with me. And I said to them, I say, guys, we have something here. I think I'm gonna do my first feature film.
Mm.
And I said, let's pause production. Let me see if we can put like a sizzle, something together. And let's see if I can get some funding for this. And so Hector, my DP, who I mentioned, who I first started out with, him and his sister, they put together a reel. And I sent it to my film sisters, Edith and Shaquila. And I said to them, hey guys, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put this on crowdsource. I'm gonna raise some money. And it said, no, this looks like something that could be on Netflix or like Hulu and Edith, who is actually helped me get into the Sundance program because of her script.
Mhm.
That's who feature I'm going to be producing. It comes full circle.
Oh, nice.
Um, she sent my sizzle to Mark, who ended up being my EP, said, Kyra's going to crowdsource this. Convince her not to. This is so much bigger than crowdsource.
Mm-hmm.
Mark contacts me. Hey, blah, blah, blah. Can we set up a call? Our first call, he says, I know you don't know me from a can of paint. Please don't crowdsource this film. Please let me get this money for you. I can do this. I took another leap of faith. And sure enough, Mark got me the funding to finish my film. He's the one that got me introduced to Allen Iverson. And it just took off. And through that, we ended up introducing Mothers in Charge into the documentary, because now I'm thinking, right? Okay, this is a feature. And if I'm doing a story about how my cousin is keeping the kids off of the street, and we're hearing the kids' stories too, we need to also talk about the aftermath, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how Mothers in Charge got involved, because they're a group of mothers, that help other mothers and other families deal with the pain and the loss of losing their children. Mm-hmm. And then I found my old POW officer. So I have a retired police officer, and it just turned into this beautiful love letter to my city. And I will say this, when we first started filming, before there was an executive producer or anything, we did not know that year Philadelphia was going to break the record of gun violence.
Wow.
In the city. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I know it's a lot. And I will say this, Mark gave me the funding that he could, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough mm-hmm. to get me there. And because everyone believed in the story and what I was trying to do, and because of the gun violence that was going on, I mean, my crew donated their gear to me, they worked for half-day rates, because they're like, save this money for post-production. Mm-hmm. My husband's a chef, so he did my craft services.
Okay.
So it was just like, it was Expressway Rentals gave me deals, because also the benefit of being a commercial producer is that I also get to hire my friends for their real rates on these commercial productions, So it was my film community, and they had my back.
The power of relationships.
Yes.
Cannot be overstated. And actually, the question I was about to ask you, you answered it. The power of relationships. But let me ask you this. Again, talking to someone that is coming into this business, how important is it to stress to the new people that are coming in, basically what you just kind of laid out, where you had very experienced people decide that I am not going to take the normal day rate that I normally charge mm-hmm. people, because what I see is so much bigger than that. And being a little commercial here, mm-hmm. if my name is attached to this, other things can and will open up for me. So if you're talking to someone, it's always about, I got to get my money, I got to get that bread right now. What would you say to them if they happen to run across something like this, where the payoff mm-hmm. will be so much bigger down the road if you just have a little faith and believe in what's happening right now? What would you say to someone regarding
I always tell people, do your homework too, mm-hmm. Like, is that person reputable? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, because, for example, one of my gaffers, Jeremy, I had never worked with him before, right? Mm-hmm. But my other DP, Joe, asked him, like, hey, my friend Kyra, like, she's doing this documentary about gun violence. She doesn't have a lot of funding. And Jeremy said, oh, no problem. Like, he donated his gear to me and half-day rate, right? But he knew that I was also in the industry. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, thank you so, so much when we wrapped. I said, thank you so, so much, Jeremy. I said, I promise you, when I get a local shoot, I will call you. Mm-hmm. A year later, I was actually filming in New York, and I was able to hire Jeremy on 3 different shoots where he got his full rate, got all of his equipment, like everything, you know? So it's just like, if you're going to do something for half rates or even do something for free, just do your research on that person to make sure that they're reputable, that they're also not trying to take advantage of you, you know, because that's another thing, right? Um, and that's about and see and ask other people like, hey, do you know X, Y, and Z? Because our industry is small, right? So if you scam people or you know you take advantage of people, you're not reputable, like other people will let you know, like, hey, you shouldn't work with this person. But thankfully, like I do have a great, you know, reputation in my industry in the commercial world and also in the documentary film world.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you know, it's so true that when they say it's what people say about you when you're not there,
Mm-hmm.
when you're not in the room. That is so vitally important because, as you said, this is a big business, but it's not.
It's not.
And everyone knows someone. The 6 degrees of separation, if that, you know, because I've been places kind of like when we met. And I
Mm-hmm.
introduced myself. You said, "Oh, I've heard of you," and I'm like, "Oh, I hope it was in a good way,"
Yes.
because, well, thank you. But you know, you just never know. So you always have to be a person of integrity in this business. But
Mm-hmm.
more importantly, and you said something that really stood out to me. You told him, "When I get here, I'm gonna pick up the phone and I'm gonna call you."
Mm-hmm.
Being a person of your word in this business is everything.
It is.
Because I know people, you will never work for me ever again.
Same.
And like, yo, Floyd, I hear you doing. Hey, good seeing you. We gonna keep it moving
Yep.
because
Same.
your word is no good,
Mm-hmm.
and that's everything. But let's talk about bad things happen in Philadelphia. So we're in LA, and you're sitting in the audience, and everyone wants to hear their name called, but everyone's name doesn't get called.
Mm-hmm.
But your name gets called, and you're walking up on the stage like, did they just call my name?
Right. You saw me. I even
Yeah,
looked behind.
you're like,
Does it say bad things?
yeah, like who they talk to? What was that feeling like, hearing your name called? And what do you think the 34-year-old you would have said if she were able to walk up on that stage that night?
Man, the 34-year-old me wouldn't have even thought that that would be possible
Mhm.
because I have very bad imposter syndrome. Very bad. And I think it's because I didn't go to film school. I'm surrounded by these people that's been working in this industry for years. This is my 5-year anniversary of me quitting my job and getting into this business. You know, I wouldn't have thought it was possible. And I still didn't think it was possible. You know, you saw me, I was looking behind like, does it say bad things happen in Philadelphia? Um, it was for me, that moment was, I told y'all, I told y'all I was going to make it. Because the thing is that when I quit my job, so many people doubted me. So many people clowned me. So many people talked about me behind my back, you know? And so that moment for me was that validation, you know? And also, you know, the industry sees me, sees Kyra Knox as a filmmaker. You know, that was, I will never ever forget that moment ever. You see, I'm starting to tear up because
Yeah,
I will never forget that moment ever.
yeah, that was beautiful. And you know, the validation, because oftentimes people that talk about you, that belittle you, but they say, "Oh, you're gonna do that little film thing." That's the what? Ooh, when they do. Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, I've found, because I've been doing this for 19 years, and I found that in my travels, that when people do things like that, is because they cannot see it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So now at this stage of the game, I give them grace because you can't see yourself stepping outside of that cubicle.
Yeah.
You can't see yourself taking a chance on yourself. And I don't know what the catalyst for you would be to say, you know what? Let me see. Just let me see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people this all the time. If you fail, that's okay. But it's not failing because you tried it. You
Mm-hmm.
attempted to do it. The
Mm-hmm.
failure is when you say to yourself, I don't like where I am. I hate it. I'm staying.
Yes. Yes. I mean, and even, going to my husband,
Mhm,
one of my proudest moments was when I produced for the Philadelphia Eagles PSA for gun
mhm,
violence. And they gave us this whole huge VIP experience. And I wasn't excited for myself. I was excited for him
mhm.
because that was his validation in the support of me. Because when I quit my job, he got a lot of slack. Oh, you gonna let your wife quit her job? She needs to settle down. Like all of that. Oh, Kyra, she gets to do whatever she want. Like all of that. She's never gonna make it.
Mhm.
So he got so much slack, like so much flack as my husband. So for him to say, "Oh, I'm going to and it was the playoff game. We went back to back. We
Oh,
went to
wow.
and he was like, I'm going to the playoff games because I believe that my wife and her career has taken me here,
Mhm.
and I got to give him the most amazing birthday by him going, because he's a diehard fan. So that was validation for him, and for me, because I was happy I was able to give him that moment, because that's another thing that people don't think of. Like when you're married, that's your partner, so we're in this journey together. And it really kept me going, because while everyone was throwing knives at my back, he was behind me catching them all
Mhm.
so that I could stay focused on the goal.
Yeah, and
Oh,
that's
back.
I can't wait to meet him because he sounds like an outstanding brother.
You
But
met him.
oh,
Brief.
that's yep.
He
You know
was the
what?
one
See,
that was screaming in the eye,
oh my gosh. Okay, well I got to meet him again because it
that
was just a
pushed me up
whirlwind.
the steps.
But you know what though? You need somebody like that to give you cover. As the husband, that's what you're supposed to do. As
Mhm.
a man, that's what you're supposed to do. And when people are questioning your manhood, oh, you gonna let your wife do that?
Yes, and
First
they
of all, my
push.
wife's a grown ass woman. I
Yes.
ain't letting her do that. Well, see, my wife in the other room, she hear this part. She like, what? Because when I heard that on the interview, I said, oh, somebody actually said, is is your husband gonna let you? Oh, see, you about to get in trouble, and
Mhm.
especially talking to us, as black people. That's some slavery type shit. You gonna let
Mhm.
somebody do something? Last time I looked, I was grown. I was grown. Let me slow down because I'm getting hyped. But that's amazing, and it's nice that he has your back, so
Mhm.
that when people are coming at you, you have a safe harbor that you can go to and say, you know what, things are getting a little heavy right now, and he's like, don't even worry about it, girl, I got you. So that's
Mhm.
beautiful. So we're coming to the close, but I wanted to ask you about being in the Sundance Producers Lab program. How did that happen? How did you get that?
Imposter syndrome again, right?
Let's, you know what, before you answer that question, because that has come up a few times. Where does that come from? With everything that you've accomplished, where does that come from?
Man, I didn't go to film school.
Neither did
Only
I.
been in this industry for 5 years now.
Okay.
I'm surrounded by all these other amazing people that's been doing this for years and years and years. And then there's also, in the commercial world, you get a lot of people that don't know me, because I
Hmm.
travel my commercial producing background. I get to travel all over,
Hmm.
right? So I'm always on a plane somewhere. And so you get those people like, oh, you're the producer, you know? So that kind of like bothers you a little bit and gets in your head. So it's just been a lot of making sure that I don't block my own blessings. And I almost did with Sundance. I almost blocked my blessings. So the Sundance application opened up, I believe it was either October or November. And my film sister, Edith, who I told you ended up introducing me to my EP, she has this amazing script called Southside Girls. And my background is not in narrative. My background is in commercial and documentary. And I mean, Edith, well, now she's in the middle of the writer's strike. But I mean, Edith was she was in the Paramount Fellowship. She was in the Gotham Labs. She is a powerhouse. She was in the writer's room right before the strike happened. And even though we're film sisters, I was just like, no, there's no way she would let me produce this script because this script is her baby. And this script has gotten her into so many fellowships, and she never sold her script because people, they wanted to buy it, but they wouldn't let her to direct it. And she's a Latina woman. This is a Latino script, Latinx, excuse me. And so she always held it. And I knew that she had another producer, but I didn't see that producer doing anything with the script. And so now we're in late January, 2 weeks before the applications are due. And I called Edith and I said, hey, Edith, I've waited months to ask you this, but now that it's 2 weeks away, can I be your producer for Southside Girls and enter into the fellowship? And she was like, Kyra, why didn't you ask me? Why you waited this long? I was like, because I never did narrative, like that before. And this is a feature, I'm documenting. She was like, but you're a producer. This is what you do. You can learn the narrative part of it. And so, man, we buckled down and she helped me with my application. And we had to get so much together in such short amount of time. And I remember I was on my way to New York for a commercial shoot. I'm on Amtrak. I messaged my DP and my director, Ben, and I said, guys, I'm putting my phone on silent. I'm going to submit to Sundance. It's the last day to submit. And I submitted it on that Amtrak train. And me and Edith, she was all like, man, Sundance has broken my heart. I only got through the first round. And that was it. And I was like, I ain't going to get in, but we tried. Now I'm on a commercial set, get an email. You made it to the next round. What? So now we have to quickly put together this and more materials. And now they want to see her director's work. They want to see my producer work. So I submit Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia. Since I directed and produced that whole thing. I didn't have a producer for Bad Things. So I took both on. And I was like, all right, probably not going to make it to the next round, but I tried. I make it to the next round. And now I'm in an interview, like multiple interviews, and I'm like stressed and I'm like stuttering. And I was like, I'm sorry, guys, I have imposter syndrome. Like, I can't believe I'm right here in front of you. And I remember I kept tearing myself down. I was like, I ain't make it. I screwed up. At least I got this far. It's fine. I can always say I was a finalist. And then I got the letter that I got in. Wow. And I burst out crying because what if I never called Edith? What if I let my imposter syndrome block my blessings? I would not be sitting here with you saying that I'm a fellow,
Yeah. But you know what? In spite of all of that, you took action. And see, again, that's what separates people who actually get things done and are successful, because we all suffer from that to some degree. I've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes I'm like, ooh, I can't believe that I got to talk to that person. But then I look back on what I did and what I've accomplished and what I've done. I still have so much more to do. But for me, the thing is, even in the midst of the doubt, you took action. And, I listen to a lot of personal development and a lot of extremely successful people, and they talk about that all the time. It's not the fact that you have the doubts, because I'm a multi-billionaire and I still have doubts. But here's what I don't do. I don't sit in it.
Yeah.
And you did it on the last day, but you did it. So I'm a life coach. So my assignment for you is,
oh man, oh
man. seriously, my assignment for you is to one day sit down, in a very near future, sit down and just write everything out about why you feel that way, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And then have a talk with yourself about it, because that person that keeps telling you that, give it a name. Yeah. My coach, because I had a coach, this is what she told me to do, because again, I suffer from some, I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, really, Floyd, come on, you doing this? She said, give that voice a name. And when it starts talking to you about, well, you know what, Kyra, you can't do this, and you're not good enough to do that, and you're not going to make that, have a conversation.
Yeah.
And ask it, well, let me ask you a question. Why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
That's your assignment.
Right. You're going to check back in.
Oh, of course, because you know what? I'm all about accountability, so, but so what's next?
Sundance. I start Sundance in October, the program. And I'm going to start the journey of producing my very first feature narrative. So I'm very, very excited about that. I can't announce it yet, but Kyra Knox Productions, that was just doc stories that I wanted to do. We won a huge, bid for a major campaign. Awesome. That I can't wait to share. I'll be directing my first commercial campaign.
Oh, wow.
And just continuing to feed myself with knowledge and have my Philly premiere. Everyone keep on saying, when are you bringing the film to Philly? When are you bringing the film to Philly? Philly is the grand finale of the festival run for Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia. And the next time, I would say in the next month or so, I might be announcing that it's been acquired. That's all I can say.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Because unfortunately, I did not get to see the documentary, because I did not get to the film festival until that Friday.
I remember you told me.
Yeah, so we were doing some things here in Philadelphia, and we definitely have to hook up, because there's the nonprofit that I'm a part of, Philadelphia Film Factory. We do a lot of work with youth. And I don't know if your cousin knows Derek Pratt. He's the founder of We Embrace Fatherhood. So we work with a lot of, he works with a lot of kids as well, doing basically the same thing that your cousin is doing. And again, we work with young people, and they actually just had their film premiere last Saturday, where we taught them everything from pre to post. And they had the different departments that they were ahead of.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and then they shot their own film. They did everything. So that would be beautiful if sometime in the near future, after you kind of settle down, that you could come down and speak to those kids to see that this is what ends up happening when you're consistent with it. So where can people find you?
At Kyra Knox _ on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not on Facebook as much. Only when I'm like really posting something that's going on, so that my family can see what's going on. But yeah, that's where you can find me. And you can see my work on www.kyranox.com.
Well, Kyra, this has been an absolutely amazing interview. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Sundance Producers Lab Fellowship Day to sit down and talk with me. I really enjoyed it, and it was such a pleasure meeting you. And I just look forward to, building a friendship and a relationship with you, because I always like to surround myself with people who know so much, because I love learning. And this is one of the reasons I love doing this podcast, because I say that it's always a masterclass for me. Because I always learn so much. And as far as that imposter syndrome, girl, you better get that out of here, because you know what, you have the resume to back it up. You have the resume to back it up. So, you know, the doubt monster will creep in, but that's okay. We all have that. But ladies and gentlemen, people have been popping in and out. Louis Duvall. I don't know if you know Louis Duvall.
I know Louis.
Louis was like, Kyra, real long. So he was here earlier. So you know, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining myself and the award-winning Sundance Fellowship producer,
That's why.
Kyra Knox, two-time Silver Tellys winner, and all that other good stuff. But if you enjoyed the episode, please do me a favor and share it. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, because that algorithm is a beast. Yep. I had to say that. My web manager says you got to tell people to subscribe to the podcast. And if you see it on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I want to bring you more interviews with phenomenal people such as Kyra. And Kyra, you are definitely going to have to come back for part 2. And you know, I look forward to I'm putting in my bid now, being at the premiere of Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia. Oh, but before you go,
yes,
you did the film festival in San Francisco,
the Brave Maker Film Festival.
And when I was listening to that interview, this was almost over, but I forgot. I definitely had to ask you this, and because I want people to hear this. You were talking, and you basically asked him to put your film in his film festival. And I said, that is so dope, because oftentimes the reason things don't happen is because people don't ask. So the fact that you asked was amazing. So can you just talk about that before we wrap this up?
We were it was actually an interview. The founder of that festival, I met him through Twitter, Tony. And he asked if he could interview me, because if you follow me on Twitter, I'm very, very transparent about the filmmaking process. And so many people told me, like, they would message me and comment like, oh, it's so good to know I'm not alone, you know? So once I completed the film, everyone on Twitter celebrated, because they went through the ups and the downs and everything that I went through. And so he asked if I could be on his podcast. And he started telling me about his film festival. And I was like, Tony, I didn't know that you had a Brave Maker Film Festival. And he told me what it was about. It was about brave people who are making stories that matter. And I was like, well, my film would be perfect. And I asked him, I was like, hey, can I like send you my film so I can be in your film festival? And he said, absolutely. And he watched it and he was like, hell yes, this film would be here. And he ended up getting the actor Solomon Hughes, who plays Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Winning Time, to be the moderator for my film, and made into this whole big thing at the festival, and even had a VIP party for us afterwards. So it's all like, I have imposter syndrome, but I also speak up when I need to.
Okay. Yeah, you may have the imposter syndrome, but here's the kicker. No one thinks you're an imposter.
I know.
Because I saw the interview where you were on stage with the gentleman from, was it England? I think he was from England. When you were talking about your film, and he was talking about his film as well.
Yeah.
Brave Make. I saw that panel. So, you know, so are you good? Because I wanted to ask you that. I'm like, you know, because I know you got it was a little rough on you. So you good?
Yeah. So, you know, the film is about gun violence, right? And so not only did I direct it, but I also produced it, right? And so I never got an opportunity to be left off the hook.
Okay.
So when I wasn't producing and dealing with the logistics, and I'm in the creative, right? And so you're hearing all of these stories about gun violence, you know? And then you're going to editing and you're hearing these stories again. And then you're dealing with, what do you keep in? What do you keep out? And around this, while we were filming, my cousin Gary, he lost 2 more friends to gun violence. People that were in the film, they lost loved ones to gun violence. And then me and Gary, while we're in post-production for Bad Things Happen in Philadelphia, we lose our own cousin, Frankie, who was only 37, to gun violence. So people always say, how did you take care of yourself? I still haven't taken care of myself. I always say that I should have went to therapy while I was doing this film. And I still feel as though that I need to go into therapy now, because there will be times where I would just be sad or I would burst out crying or whatever. And it's because I've been holding all of this on my shoulders. And when you're not only the producer, but you're also the director, and you have all of these close relationships with everyone, you never get a chance to breathe on your own. Because also they'll send me messages, and say, oh, this is why, we need to get out of Philly, or I just lost this person. So it's like I'm constantly dealing with gun violence. And I've been living with this film. Now that we're going through the film festival circuit, I have been living with this film from pre-production to now. Now we're at 3 years. I've been living with all of this trauma that's inside of me that I haven't been able to express or get out yet. So it's tough. And I put on a brave face because I don't want to let the people that are in the film down. Just kept trucking along. But it was one thing that my executive producer, Mark, said to me. And when he said this to me, I said, he will always be my executive producer if he wants to be. When my cousin was killed, he said to me, if you don't want to do this anymore, I'm okay with that. He said, I'll take a loss on the money. He said, because it doesn't matter. Your mental health matters the most. If you don't want to do it, if you say, Mark, I'm not releasing the film, I don't want to do film, I don't want to do none of this anymore, I'm done. He said, I will be okay with that. So for him to show me that compassion, because EPs, right, they're typically about the money, the dollar. So he saw me as a human being and not as a dollar sign. And so because I had him behind me as my executive producer, that really gave me the strength to keep going, because I knew that when it got too hard, I can call him and say, hey, Mark, can you take this call instead of, me taking this call, or can you do that? So that helped me out a lot.
Okay, well, good. I just had to make sure I said, I gotta ask her if she's okay, because I was listening to the interview and I was like, oh no, because it takes a lot out. It takes a lot out of you. Unfortunately, I'm in that fraternity as well, because I lost my older brother to gun violence when I was 15, and you're like, wow, really. And a lot of my friends, growing up, because I'm from North Philadelphia, 24th and Allegheny. So a lot of friends, drug violence, drugs, guns, and things like that. So it's never good. But I know we said we were about to get out of here, but you went to Kappa. My sister graduated from Kappa. My executive director graduated from Kappa. So we got some Kappa people now. Yeah. So this, but yeah. All right, we are definitely getting ready to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a busy lady, and I don't want to keep her too long. And I know husband like over there, like he said, he's gonna let my wife go. So
no. He's in the other room. He's cooking. I mean, I have to say, like, he really makes sure that I'm taking care of myself the best way I can.
Good.
So if I'm at my computer and I'm all like, I'll be out there, he'll physically bring a plate to the computer when he sees I'm not leaving, to make sure that I'm eating. He said, you got to eat, you got to take care of yourself. So that's what he's actually doing right now, making sure I'm taking care of myself, because I'm in the middle of 3 commercial projects right now.
Wow. So No imposter syndrome here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where I don't know where that's coming from, but that's okay. That's okay. But again, if you ever need anything, we'll exchange numbers and all of that. So if you just want to ask me life coach questions,
Yes.
I'll do what I can. I'm pretty good at it. People say I'm pretty good at it. So, but again, Kyra, thank you so much. I truly,
Welcome.
truly, truly enjoyed this, and I definitely cannot wait to have you back on the podcast because your future is so bright. I am so excited for you,
Thank
and
you.
I'm so glad that I got the chance to meet you in person and to see your big moment on stage. I love sharing and things like that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much. Follow Kyra on all her social media platforms. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and Apple. And as I always end every show, love it like a hobby, but above all else, treat it like a business. And with that, everyone have a phenomenal night.